It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, a show for the most passionate fan base in the NBA.
Covington playing LaVine, topside three ball, bam! Onions, baby onions! Zach LaVine in the Bulls!
Your number one source for Chicago Bulls news and stories.
LaVine to White, this time he gives it to Williams for three. The rookie! The Paw! Oh my goodness, what a shot!
Hosts Jordan Maly and Matt Peck dive into the best Bulls news and stories around the NBA.
It's Jordan Maly. Jordan, great to see you through our 670 The Score scope. Yep.
Where is he?
And it's right over there, Bill. Are you flat out kidding me?
Matt Peck used to do a great job with the Bulls Outsider Show. Now he's doing Locked On Bulls.
There he is, human floor burn.
Oh, don't mess with the boots.
But watch this crossover. Casper to Freely Ghost.
Oh my goodness.
So kick back,
I'm not.
relax,
I'm not.
and get ready for the best hour of your day.
I'm not.
You can just see the vibe.
And these guys are men.
Locked On Bulls starts now.
I love it. Pass to LaVine with a right-handed jackhammer slam. Oh my goodness, that was filthy.
Here are your hosts, Jordan Maly and Matt Peck.
Now I'm getting out the dancing shoes.
Welcome into Locked On Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jordan Maly, along with me is Matt Peck. Follow us on Twitter at Jordan C. Maly, at Bulls_Peck, and at Locked On Bulls. Hit us up on our text and voicemail line 331-979-1369. Drop your text, your voicemails, anything you got for us at 331-979-1369. Today's episode is brought to you by Locker Room. Go download the Locker Room app right now. Join us for our Locker Room tomorrow. It's going to be probably a month now. We've done Locker Rooms for a month now, Matt, and they've been a lot of fun. Our first one was on the trade deadline, so good things happen when we do a Locker Room. So make sure you download the app, and we will be there tomorrow. Matt, what's going on? Big win yesterday, which is actually kind of surprising considering the fact that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both played this game, yet the Bulls steal one in Boston. How are you, man?
Jordan, what's going on? What's up, Bulls Nation? Yeah, certainly a surprising win, just based on the way that we've seen the Bulls play recently. I guess the Celtics were still shorthanded, despite what you said, Tatum and Brown both being questionable, but getting the green light. Still no Kemba Walker and no Marcus Smart, two big pieces for that team. Even still, I looked at that win as probably the Bulls' best win of the season. I mean, when you talk about signature wins, the Bulls have come close several times, and they've fallen short just by a couple of points here and there, a couple of bad possessions down the stretch on what would be signature wins. But that's a Celtics team that had won 6 straight games coming into that game last night. The Bulls were on the road in Boston, and they closed, and good for them. And I don't know about you, and we can talk about every element of this game, the people who had strong games. Vooch leading the way with 29 and a double-double. Kobe White bounced back from a bad first quarter to make some big plays down the stretch. But I thought collectively team defense won this game for the Bulls, and it's not often this season that you can say that about this group.
Yeah, we'll get to the goofy stuff in this game at some point here because we are going to talk about you-know-who. You know exactly who I'm talking about, too. On the Boston Celtics, who reappeared in our lives again because, of course, we will talk about him in a minute. But I thought the defense was great last night, too. Man, I think we've criticized Kobe White a lot over the last couple of weeks. I think he deserves a lot of credit for how he's played over the last 2 games. More specifically, he just looks more confident. I don't know if something has struck, like he finally hit rock bottom as far as what else can go wrong for me, and let's flip it on its head, and now he's kind of bouncing back. He's looked really good without Zach over these last couple of games. I don't know if he's finally adjusted to his role, feels a little bit more comfortable when he's in full command of the offense. I don't know. He's looked better in the last 2 games, so I give him credit for that. But yeah, it's our vets again, man, stepping up and playing defense, multiple stops in a row. It's good to see that. Troy Brown Jr. already helping too. It's a part of the reason why the Bulls traded for him. So I was happy, Matt. And honestly, I don't know it's one of the Bulls' signature wins. Like, I'm trying to think about the guys that just played in this game. I get Brown and Tatum both played, but also think like Romeo Langford logged 11 minutes. Grant Williams played in 12. Peyton Pritchard played 14. Tremont Waters played 8. Jabari Parker, who we will talk about, in 7.5 minutes. So this team wasn't fully healthy too. So I would still think like the Portland game is probably their signature win, although they blew a 20-point lead. What about you? I mean, any other positives from this game as far as guys that you like to see? What did you think about Kobe White?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Kobe. He's had a few decent games since he went back into the starting lineup. And if that's what Donovan wants to roll with moving forward, certainly at least until Zach comes back, I'm cool with that. Because I still believe that Zach and Kobe together doesn't quite work as your starting backcourt. So when Zach comes back, maybe Kobe can adjust to going back to the bench. But meantime, it wasn't just the fact that, he made some big shots and he had that one, key driving layup late in the fourth quarter, but also was just doing a very good job playing the two-man game with Vooch. Simple things that we haven't seen Kobe doing in his second season as far as just being a floor general type point guard to make the right reads and the right decisions. And several times down the stretch, he got the ball in Vooch's hands, and we gave our best player the ball in good position to score, establish good post position. And other comments that we had after the game, like, he missed Tice rolling, when he slipped free on a double screen in the first half. And I thought it was funny. He said, yeah, his brother texted him at halftime to say, hey, man, you missed Tice on that one. And Kobe acknowledged it. And then you saw in the second half, they ran the same play. Tice slipped through the screen, and Kobe set him up with it for a perfect lob dunk. Like, we are starting to see Kobe slowly figure some of these things out. And I'm happy for him, and I hope that continues. But my big question is what happens when Zach comes back? Because we've seen the way that those two play as a starting backcourt, and it's trouble.
That's why I'm wondering if Tice and Vooch are both going to help them, and maybe they're starting to learn a little bit more how to play, how those two can coexist at the same time with two other bigs who are exceptional at passing. I think they're starting to realize more and more too that Patrick Williams can pass. Although we've talked about some of his sliding, I don't know, I think he's hit a rookie wall, but over the last couple of weeks we've talked about his decrease in volume of shots, just production overall. I think there's a way Zach and Kobe can exist on the floor at the same time together. I think this all goes back to Kobe just being able to hit shots again, doing what he is best at, the reason why the Bulls drafted him. Because he's quick and athletic, and he can knock down a damn shot from anywhere. He's doing those things again, and I think it's making him more confident in the other areas that he's been working on when he struggled with that over the last month or so. Him knocking down threes is similar in Lowry's case, too. As Lowry knocks down threes, he's more confident in the game. He tends to have a better game. Kobe, same way. He starts knocking down threes, he's a little bit more confident. So I've liked how he's played in the last two games. It's nice to have an all-star when Zach's out, too. How about that? Like, Vooch, 13 for 23, man. I mean, he's the reason why we won this game.
Yeah. I mean, 29 on 13 of 23. You can't ask for much more efficiency than that. He even was 50% from downtown, 3 of 6. And just made big plays late. Like you've also even seen Vooch contributing on the defensive end a little bit better than he has. Like, we all knew that he wasn't some great rim protector or defensive stopper, and that for the most part you would see him playing, mostly drop cover. The Bulls would be exposed at times because of their perimeter defense, and Vooch would be hung out to dry, just like Waddell was, just like Gafford was before we traded both of them. But Vooch has just been such a sturdy presence of all-star caliber production on the offensive end, to a point where when they go away from him for a quarter every once in a while, and he doesn't get touches in the post, like, what are we doing? Why aren't we using this guy more? Like, feed him the ball. So I was nice to see him and Kobe working together well to get good looks down the stretch of this game. But it's, like you mentioned, Patrick Wilson and what he needs to do to be more involved. Some of the other role players around Vooch while he's out. I think the other player that you really have to give credit to for last night's win is Garrett Temple. Peta probably, despite rookie mistakes, one of this team's better defensive players, while Temple was out with that hamstring. Since come back, and he just, said after tonight's game, he finally feels like he's 100% conditioning-wise, health-wise, after playing a few games on limited minutes restriction. And he hounded Jason Tatum last night. Tatum was 3 for 17 from the field. He had a triple-double, but a modest one, and he was 3 of 17. Tatum credited the Bulls making things tough on him last night. And I saw the stat, I can't remember from who on Twitter last night, but that was Temple's 15th start for the Bulls this season for various lineup changes and his injury. Those are 9-6 in the 15 games that Garrett Temple started this season. Compared to this team's overall record, you think maybe that guy is a little underappreciated?
100%, man. I brought it up on the radio last week, too. We were talking about most significant turns as far as where this Bulls season goes and why the Bulls were in a rut, similar to what we were talking about here. And the one thing that I think a lot of people who aren't diehards like you and I are, who are sitting here and living and breathing with every single minute, overlooked Garrett Temple. So I think that's a great point. People overlooked how good he is on defense. Like you were just talking about him locking up Jason Tatum. That's part of the reason why they won this game, outside of Vooch just going absolutely off. People really underestimate Garrett Temple's impact on other players around him, too. He builds confidence. I think it's weird to say this, but it feels like guys might feel a little bit more comfortable and assured when he's on the floor as opposed to somebody else like Denzel. You don't really know what he's going to do, or whoever else is in the wing position. It's like Garrett Temple knows exactly the play he needs to make, whether it be on offense or defense. Those guys trust him. And it's not to say that they don't trust Denzel completely, but he's a little bit more, I don't know what he's going to do. My point being is, I think you're right, 100%. People very, very... Even writers who've been following this team all season long, too, I think have underestimated the impact Garrett Temple has had on the floor. His impact off the floor, I think we all can agree, has been amazing. Him and Thad have been invaluable to this team this year. So a combination of all of that, man, it's good to see the Bulls get a win against a really good team on the road. So this is exactly what they needed if they wanted to pick up. They want to pick up where Zach sort of left things off and hopefully make a playoff run. I mean, that's still very much alive. We were talking to the Cleveland guys yesterday. I think they looked like they didn't want to play yesterday. So I didn't watch the conclusion of the Pistons game last night, Pistons and Cavs, but it sounds like those guys are out. So the Bulls have a good opportunity here, even despite not having Zach. Before I say we conclude the episode with the Billy Donovan stuff, because it was just that good, and it kind of could leave us asking a few questions as we end the episode. Let's quickly, though, tell me what's going on with Bulls Twitter before we talk about Jabari Parker.
So, okay, I knew it was coming. When the Bulls pulled off this win, I knew it was coming from certain people. There are certain members of Bulls Twitter I know, certain beat writers even, like our pal Joe, who was so quick to suggest after that win, oh, hey, maybe are the without Zach LaVine? Gee, they're 2-1 in the games that he's missed. And plenty of Bulls fans who believe what Joe believes, or what Joe is feeding, as his narrative this season, which is that Zach is not as valuable a winning player as someone who is worthy of a max level contract. And that's a whole other conversation for another day. And I think that it's unlikely we'll see Zach sign an extension this offseason. However, the fact that there is a non-zero amount of this fan base who believes that this team is better and would continue to be better without the services of one Zach LaVine is ludicrous, and we need to chop off this argument at the knees. I'm sorry, but the guy is one of the most efficient scorers in the NBA this season. He is an all-star because you're finally starting to get a little bit of cohesion and gelling between your pre-existing roster and the new arrivals, the new parts of Billy Donovan's rotation. Because that's happening while Zach is out, it also means that this team is better without Zach LaVine. Please. It's
man.
Ludicrous. It's nonsense, Jordan. It's disrespectful to Zach, and it's a dangerously stupid narrative for all these people to be feeding to each other. In what level of reality do you take an all-star averaging 28 points a game out of a team and say that team's better?
So this is bad time to ask if we can have the most improved player conversation and throw Zach LaVine in the mix. Is that what you're saying to me? Is people don't want to have that conversation?
Well, look, usually it's a player who makes a bigger leap than what Zach has done this season, because maybe he wasn't an all-star snub last season, but he put up pretty darn good numbers last season too. People
his
talking
efficiency
about,
numbers are up still in basically every category this season. I get what you're saying. The leap is bigger.
People talking about him as a fair candidate for that award. People mostly start with names like Jeremy Grant going to Detroit and taking on a much bigger load.
Zach could go to Detroit and drop 40 a game.
Right.
Those are the conversations that they're having.
Not saying it's right. But I mean, maybe Jordan Clarkson is another big one because he's playing a very big role on a team that's actually really good, as opposed to Jeremy Grant. Just crazy usage percentage on a team that's bad and going nowhere. So I don't think it's an outlandish thing that Zach isn't at the forefront of that awards conversation. But what is outlandish is that a percentage of Bulls fans think that this team is better off without him. Which I'm sorry, but no. Did you just forget about that Memphis game from last weekend that Zach missed and we got rocked? We got worked? What
is the conversation more around the fact that Zach won't ultimately lead to a championship, or is it the mere fact that they're having this conversation now as opposed to 3 weeks ago before we made the trade for Vooch? Are they saying, okay, we are in a better position long-term to be able to build for a championship team with Vooch plus one or two other stars, as opposed to Vooch and Zach short-term and long-term? Is that where the conversation is going, is ultimately people don't think that Zach can bring you a championship as one of the main pieces?
Yeah, I think that the Zach doubters have all that, even with the addition of another all-star like Vooch, that it's not enough and that we need a third piece. As soon as we got Vooch in the trade, a lot of Bulls fans started talking about, okay, well, what's the third piece? We were talking with people in our mailbag saying, what's the third piece? We've got two.
National people were talking about it, man. Like Bobby Marks brought up Bradley Beal. I just heard Brian Geltzeiler from SiriusXM. He brought up Bradley Beal's name as the possible third star. So that's been mentioned a couple of different times, which is fantastic. We should continue to have those conversations, not the ones about, well, we can't build around Zach, so blow it up again. Do we really want to go off the rails here and go back to the conversation we had about, okay, trade away your star. When's the next time you're going to win again?
Yeah. And so I think the other big part of that conversation, especially after last night's win, which, as you and I talked about, credit to the as a entire defensive unit for their level of intensity and efficiency on the defensive end. They created turnovers. They limited their own, and that was a big difference maker in that game. They made big defensive plays down the stretch of that final 5 to 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. Kobe White getting steals, Patrick Williams diving on the floor for loose balls, Garrett Temple making plays. And so a lot of the people who say Zach's not a winning player because, yeah, he's giving you points, but his defense, how many points is given up? And people say that about Kobe White too, but it seems like there's a Venn diagram of people who believe in Kobe White and trash Zach for his defense. And it's like, have you seen Kobe play defense? The defense last night, I have never seen that level of defense from Kobe White before, ever. And it was awesome to see it.
He was hitting shots. It's just like Lowry. It's just like Wendell. It's because they were hitting shots. The confidence is there.
And so
I see your point.
I saw people saying, well, yeah, of course, because I retweeted a Garrett Temple quote saying, hey, it turns out defense can win games. And somebody said that, like, well, yeah, imagine you take out a defensive liability and put in his place a plus defensive player, like the team's defense is going to be better. It's like, that is such a lazy way to look at it, because, Zach gives you way more on the offensive end than Garrett Temple does. And kudos to Temple for knocking down all of his 3 3-point attempts last night. That was big. The Bulls needed him. But Garrett Temple's presence, it doesn't mean that you can't have Zach and benefit from Zach's all-star caliber play on the offensive end. Because this, at times, started Garrett Temple and Zach LaVine in the same starting lineup. Just because you have Zach out, and when Zach comes back, it's not like you have to kill Garrett Temple's minutes. Donovan can figure out a way to play them together, because clearly this team needs Temple's defensive presence out there because it elevates the rest of this team's defense. But to suggest that, like, let's just bench Zach because, gee, look how good we played on the defensive end with Garrett Temple last night is insane.
I mean, it's that those aren't even conversations worth even talking about. Like, to get that riled up, like, who in their right mind, like, Billy Donovan would never entertain that idea. Like, gotta think about it that from that perspective. Something that I picked up from what you were saying there, though, like, people saying, okay, the Kobe White played great defense last night, like, him playing very hard. Let's also put into perspective that he wasn't guarding Kemba Walker. How many points do you think Kemba Walker drops if he plays last night instead of Peyton Pritchard or Romeo Langford? Like, those are the dudes that Kobe was guarding last night. It wasn't Kyrie Irving or Kemba Walker. Like, any of the top point guards cook Kobe White on a nightly basis. We've seen it before. We have more than a large sample size of that. I don't think we need to go back down those conversations either. My point being, though, if people are really, like, all of a sudden, like, let's just be out on Zach because look at what Kobe can do by himself, I think that is just absurd. Like, to me, that is an absurd take, and I'm willing to just leave it there. I want to get to the Billy Donovan thing, though.
I think we can't the fact that those Bulls fans exist and call them out on their sense.
How many of those Bulls fans live in the same circle as the ones who never wanted to trade Jimmy and, like, still to this day bring that up as like it's 4 years ago? Isn't it crazy too? We haven't even talked about the fact that Jimmy and the Bulls could end up head to head in the play-in. Like, right now, if the play-in started today, it would be the Bulls and the Heat.
Oh God.
That might come back. That might resurface. This might be a theme that might resurface in a couple of weeks. We only got 15 games left. So, all right, let's hear from the man. Let's hear from the guy that we actually want to hear from. Because I think this goes back to our conversation even last week, Matt. I think we were talking about, like, do Bulls fans are they starting to second guess what the Bulls decided to do at the trade deadline? And we were even trying to kind of narrow down, like, do people understand even before they made the Vooch trade that AK was pretty clear about, hey, if we're going to make a move, it's not going to be just for this year. It's also going to be a move where we can do things short term, 2 or 3 years, and things that could possibly impact us 5 years down the road. So that's the way that they were thinking. That's how we should have anticipated this front office approaching the trade deadline. That being said, I think Bulls fans are a little disappointed after the high we were on of landing Vooch plus Daniel Tice plus Troy Brown Jr. and thinking this team was going to change all of a sudden overnight. That wasn't the case. So Billy Donovan, I think, put it perfectly, Matt, after the end of the game, and he talked a little bit about how the Bulls have been out of rhythm. And frankly, it's not a bad thing either. It's just it's the case of it's not a video game. It's not 2K where you just switch rosters and overnight it's different. So let's take a listen to Billy Donovan, and he talked about this and how it's impact the rhythm of the overall team.
I don't mean this maybe how it's going to come out, but the trade kind of really messed up our team a little bit. And I don't say that like in a negative way. What I mean by that is everybody kind of got out of their normal rotation, their normal, how they were playing, how they were being used. And I think we lost a little bit of our competitiveness, not because, we didn't want to compete and play hard. I think it was really more the fact that the matter was guys were trying to figure out how to handle their roles and what to do in their role. And I think what happens is when you're thinking a lot, it takes away that edge. And, we've changed over a period of time, but, in fairness, I think to those guys, the trade took us some time, getting used to. And I do, like I said, back when we were playing at home, I think going forward, it's going to be really good for us and it's going to help us. There's no question. But with the limited amount of practice time, guys being in and out and guys trying to learn a new system, it's been hard to practice and kind of get any level of cohesiveness. But, we kind of lost our way a little bit, to be honest with you. And, we talked a little bit after the Orlando game. those guys, met and talked, and I think, they all know what they need to do with inside their role, and they all understand how they've got to play for each other on defense, and they're going to have to give that kind of effort. And those guys have done a good job making the commitment to do it. But I do think some of it earlier on was, I think guys are maybe overthinking and try to figure out, my role's totally changed. Like, I've never played this way before, and I've had no practice time, and the game's starting, and all of a sudden Vucevic is now in the starting lineup against San Antonio. Tice is not there. He comes back for the next game. He's in the and all of a sudden it's like, you have to do that. There was no other way around it. But I think it took a toll on us. I think it really took a toll on us. And I give our guys a lot of credit for staying the course and trying to show the resolve to keep sticking with it, to try to figure things out, even though, we had some very, very disappointing and heart-aching losses. But I do think that, they're starting to understand how to play with each other. Now, to your point, it's been 2 games in a row. Can we come back against Cleveland and do it again? Can we come back against Charlotte and do it again? That's the sign of a good team, when you can consistently do it. And to your point, it is 2 games, but I'm anxious to see, how do we come back and do it the next night out against Cleveland?
The Bulls haven't done that in the second half, Matt. They haven't done the streak of 3 weeks where they're blowing leads and all of a sudden making the comeback or continuing to fight. And I think that they can do that in different ways now. I think most importantly to take away from that too is Billy Donovan didn't even mention the fact that the Bulls were on the road for 9 of 10 games coming out of the All-Star break, man. That itself has a huge impact on this team. How do you feel after hearing that?
I loved it. And I think he hit it right on the nose that, hey, this might not sound like a good thing, but I think it's a good thing in that we needed time. This season, because of the COVID schedule, already made it tough for teams to get in practices, especially while they're traveling on a road trip, like you mentioned, where the Bulls, right after the trade deadline and getting all these new pieces, played 9 of 10 games on the road. And by the way, most of those were against playoff caliber teams, most of those Western Conference playoff caliber teams. And the Bulls nearly pulled off upsets in multiple of those while they were trying to juggle all these new pieces and Donovan trying to figure out the rotation. And he's absolutely right. The people's roles changed. When we saw Lowry and Kobe go to the bench, they clearly had to go through some adaptation and try to figure out what they were supposed to be doing. And, Thad's role changed, and most everybody's role changed. Some people were taken out of the room entirely. Right, except for Zach. Zach's role remained the same. But even Billy Donovan has spoken to Zach's, effort to get involved, and that may be having an effect on Zach having some less efficient games recently, because he was focused on, welcoming in the new guy and his sidekick, his partner in crime, to be like, okay, let's get this guy going. Let's make him comfortable. I think even Vooch in particular, coming over from Orlando and knowing the emotional and mental toll that leaving that organization took on him. You saw when he was first asked about it after the trade, how emotional he got. And I think he's kind of in one way or another admitted to the fact that it took him a little bit of time to get himself right, and get into the realization that, wow, okay, this happened. Tice said the same thing. He said he was pretty shocked that Boston moved him. We wasn't expecting to get moved. So there's a lot going on, and it was all happening on the road during a crazy stretch of the schedule. And it wasn't fair for the fan base to expect wins to just start reeling from all directions in all of these games. And the fact that is aware of what happened, and now that they're finally, hopefully, starting to gel and come out of those struggles, and they will be better for it, is a good thing. Because there's still plenty of games left to be played. 15 games left, and they are right in the thick of it for that play and tourney. And if they can come out the other side with, okay, we all know our defined out and continue to play, not just, feed the ball to Vooch when Zach comes back, hopefully let him get his thing going and the role players play their roles. But how about effort on the defensive end? Because last night we saw just how much that can contribute towards winning too, if everyone knows their roles on both ends of the floor.
They don't pay players to play defense.
How happy were you to see that guy?
Jabari! Oh,
dude,
man.
He slammed. His only basket was a absolute poster.
No, he also had an alley-oop dunk in the second half.
Oh, did he? Oh, maybe I was looking at his second half stats. That's why he was 1 for 2.
Yeah. No, good for him. Good for him, man. I'm happy for him. I'm happy he found another spot. We'll see how long he sticks with Boston after. I mean, like, is there any rock bottom that's rockier and bottomier than getting waived by Sacramento? Like, that's brutal, man. That is the
now he's on a
worst
winning
of the
team
worst.
though. He's on a winning team though, and he's got a chance to go to the
playing
playoffs.
Minutes. Yeah, good for him.
He didn't look half bad, and he stole the ball twice from Thad too while he was playing 1-on-1. So he could play a little bit of defense when he wants to.
So as I was saying to my guys, Big Dave and John on Hot Mic last night when we were joking about Jabari, my hatred of him has, or at least my propensity to make fun of him has subsided since Gar and John were replaced.
They don't pay players to play defense.
Mostly it was them signing a contract that bugged me. And there were certainly some things about Jabari's performance that validated how I felt about that decision. Similar to the Dwayne Wade contract. I was mostly mad at Gar and John for doing something stupid, but I took some of that frustration and anger out on the player who benefited from that contract. So, I'm just happy for Jabari. He's still a Chicago kid. He's had a lot of injury battles to fight through his career, and I wish him luck at Boston and beyond. And I when he was here, and even after he left, but while Gar and John were still in power, just hearing that name bugged me. But now it's like it's in the past. Time to let some things go.
But that, I don't even know what we call that syndrome, but it's like lashing out on players that it's not really their fault for being who they are, right?
Right.
Like, the Sox do that.
It
too,
wasn't Campaign's fault that they traded to get him, and we're like, yep, he's our point guard of the future.
It's not Campaign's fault. He's Campaign. And look, he's playing well with the Suns too, man. Like, why is it that we won't go down this road? I promise we won't. But I just want to know if somebody can answer the question why during that period of like 5 years, seeming like every single one of those guys that had a horrible experience here, got bounced from Chicago and has gone somewhere else and been successful. I don't know why that has happened. And maybe we can answer the question with this.
They've been in this building.
Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. The thing I wanted to too, we got Luke Cornett as well. We got a Luke Cornett mention.
Dude, he caught a body last night.
All I'm gonna say is we don't have to talk about it long, but the white Robert Horry posterized dollar store Dirk. Like, that is what happened last night. And I hate to call Lowry that, but that's what it was last night.
I think that's even an insult to something Dirk related that you could buy for $1 at a dollar store. Honestly, that's an insult to dollar store Dirk. Oh.
So with that, it was nice to see that. How do you feel? Like, what made you more angry? Is the fact that Dwayne Wade jumped into the episode yesterday, or that Jabari Parker made an appearance today?
Hey, you know what, man? Woo-sa. I can't rub my ears because I got headphones on right now. Woo-sa. They are both in the past. I don't care.
You know what's going to make me real angry is when Zach leaves in free agents and he goes to Utah because he wants to play for Dwayne Wade.
Oh, my God. What? That is the first that I have heard that scenario thrown out there.
I've seen Bulls fans already talking about it, Utah fans already talking about it. But like I said, if Zach hits free agency, let's hope that is not the case. He's going to LA. He's going to Lakers, man. It's a wrap. It's done.
Oh,
it's signed and sealed. If he hits free agency, he's going to go to the Lakers.
What would bug you more, if he went to the Lakers or if he went to Utah?
No, if he went to the Lakers, there's no question. Like, because I know then LeBron's going to stay for a couple more years. You know, whatever they do with AD, maybe they trade him because of his contract to sign Zach. LeBron will find his way on that bench, even if he's not starting in games, to be involved in that. So that would make me angry that Zach would help LeBron win a championship again.
Yeah, that would really bug me. I would mostly just feel bad for Zach if he went to Utah, because he would have to live in Utah, at least for a significant part of the season. No offense to our fearless leader, David Locke.
I was just going to say, we can hang out with David Locke. With that said, let's hope Zach doesn't hit free agency. Like, that is a conversation we do not want to be having. And it doesn't seem like any signs are pointing to that. So Until that day comes, we will continue to progress and talk about maybe actually building around Zach long term.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still be surprised if he signs an extension this offseason, man.
I think so too, but that doesn't mean it's about the money. I get it; it's a business too, so that doesn't mean anything though. It doesn't mean that he doesn't stay here long term, right?
That's true. And in the meantime, hope he's okay. Hope he's getting better. And all of you Bulls fans who have said over the last couple of wins, hey, maybe this team's better without Zach LaVine. Evaluate your life choices. Maybe get a CAT scan and stop talking until you get the results of that CAT scan.
With that said, thanks for everybody listening. Thanks to everybody who's been watching us on YouTube. We're live on YouTube for the first time this week. So our first episode went up there yesterday. It was our crossover episode with the Locked On Cavs guys. So go check that out. If you like watching your podcast instead of listening to it, check us out on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe as well. Matt and I are going to be doing a giveaway. We're going to do benchmarks for our YouTube channel as you continue to subscribe. Our first 500 subscribers on YouTube will be entered into a drawing for a Zach LaVine jersey. We'll continue to do those benchmarks as we raise our followers and our subscribers on YouTube. So go, if you haven't gone already, go subscribe to our YouTube page and you'll be able to get every single one of our episodes as soon as they come out. So this has been a lot of fun. Matt and I are here on video and excited to start incorporating guests into it as well. And it was fun to do a crossover as well. So now you guys get to the actual opportunity to see us instead of just listening to us. But if you want to continue to listen to us and listen to us every single day, subscribe to our podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. You can hit us up at 331-979-1369. You can drop your text, voicemails, anything you got for us at 331-979-1369. Remember, we're going to do Locker Room tomorrow, so if you want to be a part of that conversation, sign up for the Locker Room app right now. Make sure you download it, sign up for an account, make your profile, and then follow us at Locked On Bulls, and you'll be able to know when we go live tomorrow. We'll also tweet it out as well. We're on Twitter at Jordan C. Maly, at Bulls_Peck, and at Locked On Bulls. For Matt Peck, I'm Jordan Maly. Bulls Nation, have a wonderful day. Be back tomorrow with a fresh episode. For Jordan and Matt, we are out.